Hello everyone, myself Parth Joshi, and today I'll be presenting my C++ project called Resume Builder. As we all know, resumes are extremely important in today's professional life. They are often the first impact we make on the recruiters. But creating resumes manually every time can be very time consuming process. So that's why my idea was to solve this problem using programming. That's why I built the C++ console based project which will automate the process of creating resume. In these presentation slides, I will tell you about project's purpose, its key features, the C++ concepts I have used, the challenges I have faced in this project, and also how this project can grow into a real world life tool with future enhancement. So let's start with the slides. So first of all, I will start with the basic information of my project. So let's begin with the basic details. This is a console-based project, meaning it runs entirely in a text-based environment. There is no graphical interface or GUI is not involved in this project. The purpose of the project. The purpose of the project is to make resume creation faster and easier by automating data collection and formatting. This is the purpose. And now the features. Few important features are collecting personal details, education, skills, experience and languages known, displaying the complete resume neatly in the console, and finally, exporting the resume into a .txt file. It means to export it and to save it. Now, I also used many C++ concepts like classes, structs, vectors, arrays, pointers, functions, loop, condition, and file input output. These are the few concepts I used in this project and they are very much important. Now the goal. The goal was not just to make a project, but also to apply all these fundamental C++ topics in a single real-world style application. This is the basic information of my project. So now we will move toward the major tasks I faced in while making the project. When building a project like this, we face multiple tasks. First one is to input and store the data. We need a proper structure to collect user details. Second, next is displaying the resume clearly on the console. And finally, exporting it into a file so it can be reused. Along while making the project, I also handled tasks like designing the project structure, implementing core features, handling files and errors, ensuring smooth user interaction, and of course, testing and debugging to make sure the program runs correctly. These are the few major tasks. After the major tasks, we will come to the most important part of my project, that is concepts. Concepts, this slide is the heart of this project because my project is totally dependent on C++ concepts I have used. So let me explain them one by one with how they are used in the project. So firstly, structs. Structs are used for grouping related data, classes with encapsulation of personal resume and details. Encapsulation I have written here. Encapsulation is the process of hiding data or variables inside a class, restricting direct access to it. It improves security, maintainability, and modularity of the code. Now we'll go to vectors. Vectors are used for dynamic storage of sections. C-style arrays for phone numbers. Pointers is used for resume object. Loops and condition are for menu navigation. File input output are for saving resume to disk. Now we will learn all these concepts one by one in next few slides. Okay, so let's go deep in the concepts and learn about them one by one. Firstly, first concept I used is structs or structures. A struct in C++ is a user-defined data type that allows us to group related variable under a single name. This makes our code much more organized and readable. In my project, I use struct to store education details such as degree, college name, and passing year. Altogether, instead of creating a multiple separate variables for each piece of information, I simply create a struct. called education and store everything inside it. This is the example I used in my code. This makes storing and managing multiple entries much easier. If we do not define structs, we have to define uh, multiple variables for multiple inputs. That will be too much time consuming and our code length will also be increased. So that's why we use structs and it is very useful. If a user has completed 2 or 3 degrees, then we can just create 2 or 3 education objects and push them into a vector. This approach not only keeps the code neat, but also makes it scalable because I don't have to know in advance how many records there will be. We can just put in a vector and vector are dynamic arrays. We will learn it later. So now this is the struct syntax and these are some uses of structs. Structs group related variables, so we don't need to introduce more variables. That is the major use of structs. Because of structs, our code is easy to read, easy to store in vectors and arrays, and lightweight compared to classes, models, real-world objects. Now this is all about the next important concepts is classes and encapsulation. So let's go to the classes. Class. A class is in C++ is like a blueprint for creating objects. It allows us to group variables and functions into a single unit, which is fundamental part of an object-oriented programming. We will see what blueprint exactly means here. In definition of class, blueprint means it's just like the architect's blueprint for a house, describes how house will be built. Similarly, classes will tell us about how objects will be created. That's what blueprint means in here. So in my project, I created a class called resume class. This class stores all the personal and resume related details and it also has a member function to take input, display the resume and export it. I've added the screenshot of my code where I used the class resume. So this is the screenshot of my code. Class resume. These are the private and public members. String name, string email. I will explain you this. As you can see, variables like name and emails are private. They cannot be directly accessed from outside the class. Instead, I use public function like input details and display to work with them. This is a real-world principle used in large software systems too. Data stays protected and we only expose what's necessary. Here I have used the term encapsulation. So, on one key principle I applied here is encapsulation. That means keeping data members private and giving control access through public member functions. This improves security, maintainability, and modularity. This is the syntax of the class, and this was the example of my code. So next, I used vectors and C-style arrays for data storage. Now the vectors. A vector is a dynamic array from the standard template library. Unlike traditional arrays, vectors can grow or shrink in size as needed. This is very helpful in my project because I don't know in advance how many skills, education records, or experience a user will enter. For example, I use vector here, I use vector numbers to store multiple number entries. If a user enters 3 digit or just one, the vector handles it automatically. It automatically manages its size according to the input of the user. That's the very important feature of vectors. On the other hand, I use traditional C arrays, C style arrays for the phone numbers because we already know that phone numbers is of 10 digit and we don't need to use vectors here. So we can simply just use C style arrays for phone numbers. The combination of these vectors and arrays give me both flexibility and efficiency depending on the situation. Now we will come to the functions and pointers. Function. A function in C++ is a block of code that performs specific tasks. It can be reused multiple times in a program. which help in reducing redundancy. That means something unnecessary and improves readability. This is the syntax of the function. And in my project, I also used pointers. A pointer is a variable that stores the memory address of another variable. Pointers are extremely useful for dynamic memory location and for passing large data structure like objects without copying them. In my project, I used a pointer to manage the resume object. This gave me more control over memory and allowed me to create or delete objects dynamically if needed. It's also helpful when working with vectors, arrays, and functions as it avoids unnecessary copying and improves performance. That's why pointers are also important. Now we will come to the concept loops. A loop in a C++ is a control structure that allows a block of code to be executed repeatedly as long as the condition is true. I used loops such as while and for loop to repeatedly perform tasks. For example, displaying the main menu until the user chooses to exit. And these are the some key points of the loops. Loops helps avoiding writing repetitive code. Three main types of loops: for loop, while loop, and do while loop. For loop is used when numbers of iteration is known, and while loop is used when condition must be checked before each iteration, and do while loop is used when runs at least once before checking condition. It will check the condition and runs at least once. I have used loops and if-else system in my project to uh, to use menu system. So we'll learn about menu system using if-else. Its definition: a menu system allows us to choose an option from a list. In C++, it can be implemented using if-else or switch case statements. It makes program interactive and user-friendly. This is the one example code of menu system using if-else. If we choose choice 1, it will give us code for option A. If we choose choice 2, it will give us code for option B. And if we choose choice 3, it will exit. And if we also enter an invalid input, it means if we do not enter the number between 1, 2, and 3, it will say us invalid choice. That's the use of if else. Okay, so final step. Finally, I implemented file handling, also known as file input output. It will use the library fstream, which we will learn later. This allows the program to store the resume permanently on the disk as a .txt file. Once saved, the file can be opened, edited, shared, or printed just like a real resume. So here I given you example of my code where I used file input output. This this part of the project taught me how to handle external data storage and also how to manage errors. For example, what happens if the file cannot be opened? It's a key step in turning this from classroom exercise into something useful in the real world. So these are the key points of the file input output. It is achieved using fstream library, and this uses three main classes: ifstream, offstream, and fstream. Ifstream is used for reading input from the file, offstream is used for writing output to the files, and fstream for both input and output. Also, it enables persistent data storage beyond program execution. Now, this is all about the concepts I used in my project. And now we are heading to the part of my project where I used libraries, and I will explain you which libraries is used for what and what does that mean. So use libraries. I have used this much library. First one is IOStream, vector, string, fstream, limits, and cctype. So firstly, IOStream. IOStream stands for Input Output System. It provides the objects and functions to read input from keyboard and write output to the console. It provides say in and out. So it will basically take input from the user and will give output to the user. Now the second library is vector. This library is used to include vector arrays in our code. By including this library, we can use vectors in our code further. So we use vector because they are dynamic array and can modify their size when required. We already learned the uses of vectors. Now fstream. Fstream stands for file stream. It is the part of the C++ standard library that allows program to read from files and write to files. Just like cin and cout work with the keyboard and console, fstream works with the files. So we include fstream for the files only. Now the string. It is used to include string in our code. A string in C++ is a sequence of characters that behaves like a text container. Unlike C-style character arrays, string is dynamic, easy to use, and comes with many built-in functions. So this is the use of string, and to use strings, we include the library string. Now, CC type. CC type is a C++ header file that provides function to check and manipulate characters. It contains many character classification and conversion function, helps in validation, checks if phone number contains only 10 digits, validate names, ensure email contain valid character. So CC type is for used for input validation like checking if a phone number contains only digits or not. This is the use of CC type library. Limits. Limits is a C++ header file that provides information about the minimum and maximum value of data types. Limits are used to manage input boundaries and prevent errors. It is part of the numeric limits library, prevents input bugs when user mix text and number. It helps ensure the program is user friendly and doesn't break due to wrong input. Makes your resume builder more robust and reliable. So this is all about libraries, concepts I used. I hope you get all the things which I am using in my code. Now we will heading towards the flow chart of the code. So this is the flow chart. We will start and once we run the code, it will show us a main menu which contains these options. If you select first, we will create a new resume and we will input some answers of the questions it will ask. And if we choose second, we will switch the resume. We'll add education, add experience, add project. These are the some options we will use. And if we done putting our input, we will press the exit or option number 9. Then it will end our program. This is all about the flow chart of my project. One more function we have used in our project, and that is getLine help. In C++, one common problem while taking user input is mixing cin with getLine. Cin reads only up to first space, while getLine reads the entire line including the space. Because of this difference, if we use them together, sometimes getLine reads an empty string due to leftover new line characters in the input buffer. To solve this, I wrote a customer helper function called getLineSafe. Its job is to ensure that the user's input is read correctly even if a new line is left behind. I will show you in the code where I use this getLineHelp function. This getLineHelp function first tries to read the input. If it gets an empty string, which usually happens because of stray new line, it tries again. It does not move forward, it tries again. That's why it makes the input process smooth and user-friendly, which is essential for any real-world application. Now we will head towards the error error handling of our project. In any software project, handling errors are gracefully is just as important as implementing features. My resume builder project includes several layers of error handling to prevent crashes and ensure a smooth user experience. Here are few examples we can talk about. First one is handling invalid menu input. If we inputted an invalid value, then it will print the invalid input and we will try again and it will show us to try again to input a valid value. Next one is handling empty input strings. Sometimes getLine might read an empty line if a leftover new line is in input buffer. So we use the helper function. In, that's why we use helper function, which ensures it retries once, so input is captured correctly. Third one is handling file writing errors. If the file cannot be opened, example permission issue disk full, the function returns false. Now the fourth one is handling multiple resume index out of range. When switching resumes, the program checks if the entered index is valid. If not, it prints invalid index, prevents out of bounds errors and program crash. So this is the very much important to handle the error in our program. All of these checks makes the project more robust, stable, and user-friendly. They also taught me the importance of defensive programming, anticipating what might go wrong and handling it before it becomes a bug. So this is all about the error handling. Now we'll move towards the advantages. What are the advantages of my project? Now that we have seen how the project works, let's talk about what makes it valuable. Here are the key advantages of my resume builder. First one is user-friendly interface. It guides the user step by step to enter the details. Second one is it supports multiple resumes. User can create, switch, and manage multiple resumes in single run. And now the third one is data organization. All sections like education, skills, and experience are clearly structured. Fourth one, file exporting feature. Resumes can be saved in .txt file and can be used later. Fifth one, error handling and reliability. It handles invalid input gracefully. Scalability, it is easy to extend. Educational value, demonstrate C++ concepts like structs, classes, vectors, functions, file input output, pointers, and reference. So it is great for learning object-oriented programming and structured design. These advantages shows that the project is not just an assignment. It's a mini real world tool that's reliable, scalable, and very much useful. So this is all about the advantages. Now we will move towards the future enhancement of the project. While the current version of my project is fully functional, I also thought about how it can be improved in the future to make it more powerful and professional. Here are my few some ideas. First one is PDF export feature. Instead of a plain text, it should allow user to export resumes in PDF format with proper formatting and styles. Second one, resume templates provide multiple designs, modern, classic, creative for different job types. Database integration, it stores resumes in a database and retrieve, update, and manage multiple resume across the sessions. Fourth one is graphical user interface. Add a GUI for user-friendly interaction. Drag and drop fields and leave preview of the resume. Fifth one is web-based version. Convert into web app where users can build resumes online and can also even integrate with LinkedIn or some any other job portals. This enhancement shows that this project has a clear growth path. With a few improvements, it could become a professional grade resume builder. So these are the some points we can improve in our project. Now we will go to the conclusion. What is the conclusion of the project? So to conclude, my resume builder project successfully demonstrates how multiple fundamental C++ concepts can be combined to save a real-world problem. It uses class, structs, vectors, arrays, pointers, loops, file input-output, and error handling to create a complete menu-driven application where users can build and view and export resumes. It uses classes, structs, vectors, arrays, pointers, loops, file input output, and error handling to create a complete menu-driven application where users can build, view, and export resumes. Now, the project emphasized the importance of data organization, robustness, and user experience. It's currently text-based, but as I showed in the future plans, it can grow into a full-featured tool with PDF export, templates, database storage, and even a web version. Overall, this project was a great learning experience in applying C++ to real-world application and taught me how to write modular, scalable, and reliable code. So this is all about my project, and I I explained you all the small things which I used in my project, and I explained you everything which I used in my code. Now I will show you the code, and we'll run it. Let's go to the code. So this is my code. I have used this much libraries which I have explained in this video previously. Now let's go to the structs. I use mainly three structs in this program, which is struct education, struct experience, and struct project. Each struct is a part of a resume. For example, Struct education stores all the data about degree, institution, and year of the employee. This is all about struct. Let's go to the class. Now this class is named as resume. Resume class is the most important part of this program. It will store all the personal information like full name, email, and phone number. And also it contains vectors for storing educations, experiences, projects, and skills, which will have multiple entries. All these data members are private, which means they can't be accessed directly. It will require public functions such as display. Now, set personal. This function set personal information for the user like phone number, stored in a C-style array instead of strings to show that it understands both modern and traditional data handling in C++. So this will store all our personal information in it. Now let's go to the next slide, which is add sections. Add education, add experience, add project, add skill. These functions demonstrate the function overloading and vector operations. I use this pushback to dynamically store entries so the program can handle any number of education or skills records without knowing the count in advance. So this is a very uh, nice use of vectors, which can't be done in int array or a simple array. Now I use display functions to neatly print the resume in a formatted layout using loops to iterate through vectors. It checks if each section is empty before printing, showing conditional logic and loop usage. So the output is clear and readable, making the program a very user-friendly. Export to a file. So this function demonstrates file handling. It opens an output file stream and writes all data into it. It also checks if the file was opened successfully, which shows error handling. This allows the resume to be saved as permanently .txt file that can be printed or shared. This is all we have used in export to file function to save the resume to a disk. Now after this, I implemented multiple validation functions such as isValidImage, which will check that I inputted correct format for emails. IsValidPhone, which will check if the number of digits I inputted are 10 or not. IsValidYear, if the year size is 4, then it will be run. If it is not, then it will return false and will ask you again to enter the year. Now, after these validation functions, I included this getLine safe, which I have discussed in this video previously. Now the main program. This is where all the parts of your project comes together. This is our main program in which I used vector of pointers and also this while loop, which will see out uh, these nine options. So if we choose, we have to choose one option between this. These are the choices. If we choose choice one, then it will display this much. It will display this and will ask us for enter our full name, enter our email, enter our phone, enter a brief summary, and then it will set this information. Now it will say us that new resume is created and it is selected one. So this is option 2. Option 2 is switching between the resumes. This is option 3. We have to add, if we have to add education, we will select option 3. This will ask us for our degree or institution and our year of passing. And also it will check if the year is valid or not. And option 4 is for adding our experience like job title, company, duration, and details. Next one is choice 5, uh, which will be our adding projects. If you have done any projects, then project name, its description, and it will see out added project. Now the option 6 is for adding skills. We have to enter a skill if we have any. And option 7 is for viewing our resume. If our resume is at index 1, then it will show us the resume of index 1. Now option 8 is for export resume. This will export our resume to .txt file. And option 9 is for exit. If we choose option 9, we will be exiting from our program. And if it doesn't choose any option between 1 to 9, like we inputted a random number, then it will say us please choose a valid option between 1 to 9. So this is all about our code. Now I will run this code in my VS Code. So this is my code. So let's run it. Let's get the bigger terminal. And now I run it. So it is asking for me to choose option between 1 to 9. Let me enter 1. It is asking for full name. It is Parth Joshi. Enter email. parthjoshi@gmail.com. Enter phone 8999. It is asking for enter a brief summary, which is optional, so I can skip it. Now it is saying that our new resume is created and it is the selected. Now if we have to add education, let's add education by choosing option number 3. The degree is BTech institutionality and year of passing is 2029. So our education is also added in that. So if I have to view this resume which I created recently, so I need to choose option number 7. It will display our resume in, like this. This is my name, this is my email, this is my phone number, and my education is BTech IT and year of passing is 2029. So if I have to create one more new resume, I will choose option number 1 again and enter a full name. Like let's say 2 is new name. Email will be email.com. Phone number will be this. Let's say this. Brief summary, which is optional. Now this is also new resume is created, and now the index of the resume is on this new resume which I created recently. Uh, Now if I have to switch the resume index, then I have to choose option number 2. Now if I have to, there are two resumes which I have created, which is this was the first one, and later on I created this. Now the resume index is at this resume. If I have to switch it to the one, Then I will enter one number, and this resume is switched to resume one. If I have to view resume one, then I will enter seventh option, and it is displaying our first resume. If I have to switch the resume index, I will enter second option, and will select the resume index to 2. Now it is switched to resume 2. And if I have to display the second resume, then I will enter seventh. And now this is displaying of our second resume, which is this name, this email, and this phone number. So this is my code. In this resume, I also can add education, experience, project, skills, and now we have to exit. So we will enter the ninth option, exiting. So this is all about my project. Thank you very much for listening.